We have a really great show today. We're going to talk about a fallen speedway rider of the 70s who was a fantastic racer. He was a great human being, and we idolize these people who have fallen, especially these gifted riders and exceptional human beings. And today we're going to talk about one of these people who was just an amazing person. But first, if you like Speedway and you like this content of this channel, please subscribe. Just hit that button, like the show. It's really fantastic. And today, we have a super cool show for you. Today, we remember the life of a very good Speedway rider. He was a gifted rider. He started racing at a young age. He got to Speedway and became a very feared rider. He wore those black leathers with a big American flag on it. He was a patriot. No one can deny that when they see this uniform in the 70s. He wore that black uniform like I mentioned, and he was just a feared and gifted rider. And who was that? It was number 54. It was big Mike CUROSO. Mike CUROSO wasn't very big, but he was big on the Speedway track. He was very successful, and he missed winning the United States Speedway Championship by that much. He was gifted, and that guy was feared. You know, when I started racing Speedway, I watched Mike when I was just a young boy, and I was like, I hope I never get to race against Mike CUROSO because he's a very scary racer, and he's very good. And lucky for me, I didn't get to race him, but a lot of people did, and a lot of people got beat by who? Number 54. That's Mike CUROSO. Mike started racing Speedway in the early 70s, and he was like most of us. He had to work his way up to Division I in the Speedway, and Mike did that relatively fast, and he became a rising star in the sport, and he just was a phenomenal talent. He was a gifted rider. He was naturally gifted. You don't become that good unless you have the gift. And Mike CUROSO, he had the gift. I think it was Mike's exceptional ability, his will to win, that helped him propel into the upper echelon of the 70s Speedway riders in America. He just was a gifted person. And then you add that to his wonderful smile, his great approach as a human being, his kindness. He was just an amazing person, handsome guy. He was many girls' first crush, the teenage girls, that is. Mike CUROSO was a heartthrob, and he was a gifted rider on the track also. 1976 and 1977, Mike went across the pond and raced for the whole Vikings. Mike CUROSO was no Viking. He was a handsome guy. He was more like a saint than a Viking. But Mike must have rode that long track really good because Hull, they had this very long track. And Mike CUROSO stuck around for a couple years. I don't believe he was the number one rider, but he was a solid contributor with a lot to offer in Hull. After those 2 seasons in Hull, Mike went ahead and went down south. He went up north to Hull and then down south to the Pool Pirates. Mike CUROSO was no pirate. He was more like a saint than a pirate, right? He was a gifted rider, and that was his last full season in the British League. Mike CUROSO raced a total of 3 seasons in the British League. He left the Pool Pirates, never to return to the British League. However, Mike raced in Southern California, where his roots were. He was still a gifted rider. He raced in the late 70s into the 80s. And Mike CUROSO just was still a gifted rider. One of the things that changed Mike CUROSO in the 80s was he changed the uniform. No longer had the black with the American flag. He had like red and blue leathers, and he looked a lot different than he did in the 70s. However, Mike CUROSO was a gifted rider and a very good human being as well. After Mike retired from Speedway in the 80s, Mike turned to be an avid hunter and fisher. He traveled the world hunting and fishing. He was an exotic person, and he loved the nature. And one of his loves also was surfing. You know, Mike Caruso was a surfer dude. He hung out at the beach. He would surf those waves whenever those waves would come. Mike Caruso was definitely a beach boy. One of the cool things that I liked about Mike is he was deeply religious, you know. He had this deep faith in Jesus Christ, and you could see that upon Mike's face. His countenance was very nice. It was very good. He was like a shining light amongst those in darkness. Mike Caruso was just a very sort of magnetized type of person. You would just be attracted to him because of his love for the Savior. Mike went ahead and radiated that love to others. And he was just a shining light among those other people who were in light and darkness. And Mike Caruso was just an inspiration to all who knew him. Rarely was there somebody who didn't like Mike. I mean, everybody liked Mike. I mean, I wish everybody would like me like Mike, because there's a lot of people who probably don't like me, but Mike had mostly everybody who liked him. And that's just wonderful. You know, that's a really cool person. I would love to have that trait, to be honest with you. Yeah. And Mike Caruso just was magnetized to people, and they just loved his aura. He had this aura of happiness, of goodness, and he had that light of Christ beaming from his spirit. Not only was he a good person, but he had a sense of humor. You know, he was a joker. He goof around. He makes some fun, and he made people laugh. You know, if you have that gift of making people laugh, you know, it goes a long ways in life, and people like you when you have a good sense of humor. His accomplishments on a speedway bike was a runner-up to the United States Speedway Championship. In 1973, Mike Caruso, he won the Irwindale Track Championship. And in 1975, Mike was the Fair Derby winner. Do you know the Fair Derby? That's at the Costa Mesa Bull Ring, the Costa Mesa Speedway, Costa Mesa, California. He was the Fair Derby winner. Mike Caruso, 75. Very sadly to report, on September 1st, 2006, Mike, sadly, he passed away. He took his own life. Very sad. We don't know the reason why. And it's just heartbreaking to all who knew him, because he was just an amazing human being, and no one quite understands these things. And he was only 52 years old. And it's just really sad for the Speedway world to know that Mike Caruso was no longer with us. This amazing human being with so much to offer. And he was gone, and we lost him. And it's very sad that we lost such a great person, Mike Caruso. Definitely gone too soon, but not forgotten. We'll never forget the memory of Mike Caruso. He was just a gifted human being, gifted racer. He was just one of those people in life who just touched the lives of many. And sadly, he was gone. And it's very sad to report, but we should remember and celebrate the life, the great life of Mike Caruso, the good things that he had done, and the accomplishments, and the gifted human being and writer that he was. And we appreciate and honor the memory of a great person, a great writer, number 54, Mike Caruso.